What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Eskandy Sports Podcast. Real spur of the moment podcast here. We're gonna get rid of that.
Free advertising.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to work on it. That's one of the goals. But you can hear him, you can see him if you're on YouTube. We got the infamous Coach Tony McIntyre. Coach, how's it going? How's everything been?
Good, having fun. How about you?
We're all good. You're over here at the playground, Burlington, about to watch your son tip off. So we're gonna get you out here quickly to make that. But I guess just to start off with, where my head was at mainly when I wanted to ask you to come to the show is that this was my first year covering prep with any sort of depth. So before this year, I've heard Orangeville. And then we go into this year, and it looks like there was, a really wide range of good teams this year. How was this year any different than years past? Was it maybe more competitive than previous?
I wouldn't say it's more competitive. I would say that there was just a lot more teams this year, and from the best teams in the league to the ones that kind of just entered the league, there was a huge disparity between those. So I think, generally the league somewhere between 1 and 5, are pretty strong. Year after year. This year, I think it was pretty much the same. 1 through 5 were pretty good, and we lost TRC. We picked up Fort Erie out of the league. So I mean, it's growing. I think there's some work to be done in terms of positioning certain teams and making sure that top 8 teams is very strong and competitive.
And do you think with having such a strong top of the talent pool, it'll be easier to convince guys to stay here as opposed to maybe pursuing prep in the States?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the trends really switched. Unfortunately, the pandemic, I think some people made the decision to go back to the States during that just because of the state that we were in. And
it was open.
Yeah. And we couldn't play.
Yeah.
So, I think that's what we have to kind of fight against and try to, we retained all of our players, and, we probably could have made some changes in personnel, but we stuck with the guys that stayed loyal and worked out all through the pandemic, and we're in our bubble at Orangeville. So.
Yeah, and speaking of you guys from last year, pretty much in short order, we had 3 commitments relatively soon, or relatively recently. I believe Rhode Island got 2 of your guys, and then Jefferson went to Western Michigan.
Western Michigan. So yeah, those 3 are done. MJ committed back in November, December. So that makes the 4. We're just on the verge right now of Keontae Beals. And then Mustafa Van Jov and Kenyon Sterling Brown will announce in the next couple days. So that'll make 8 seniors or 7 seniors, in a pretty good year that were really stuck in the pandemic last year.
Yeah. So. How much of a struggle was it to get tape out there and to I'm going to ask you about the transfer portal, a different question.
Yeah. I think it was... This is the hardest year, and when you really look at prep basketball in Canada, I use the BioSteel game as kind of a judgment stick of, those are the top 24 guys in Canada, or Canadian, because they are some are still playing in the U.S.
Right.
But you look at it, and I think this year out of the 24, there was like 5 committed, and usually it's about 21, 22 committed, and it's just like 1 or 2 grade 11 or 12 guys that aren't.
Yeah.
So, you kind of look at what's happened in high school basketball this year, and it's kind of like a 70-80% reduction in scholarships on the men's side.
Yeah.
On the women's side, it was the exact opposite. There was 20 of 24 girls committed. So it's just it's difficult. You gotta use your resources. You gotta be reaching out, and we're lucky that we're in the grind session, and we got a lot of video and a lot of film, and we played 50, 60 games this year. So there's plenty to go on, and then synergy on top of that.
Yeah, and you were talking about how the girls are still getting their scholarships. I remember seeing you at King's Christian sort of like commitment day. I think their whole starting 5 is going D1.
Yeah, they had I think they had 8 or 9 girls all going D1 this year. So we're hanging out there with my daughter.
And I was poking fun at you at BioSteel. I don't remember, but I told you I've only been to I think 3 Kings Christian games, and I think their record was or 2.
And they lost
Yeah,
both.
yeah, and they lost. So and
You won't be going back.
no, and I was talking to Nicola. He trains here too, and like he had a great season at Northwestern. And I was hesitant to ask because I watched one game, and it was the tip off against Colgate, and I think he went 0 for something. And like, it's just anywhere I look, like the people that they do the podcast, they do well. As long as I'm not watching afterwards, so
Hey.
I'll watch as little Orangeville as possible next year.
I appreciate that. We might need it.
Yeah. I don't like to advertise that before the fact, or else maybe you won't sit down.
I'll see you there, and we're like, no,
Yeah,
get out.
I'll just be looking at the wall with the camera behind me.
Face backwards.
But we were talking about BioSteel, and I was actually talking to Pierre Mukundel yesterday. We did a podcast yesterday, and we were talking about how like this year has to be some sort of anomaly in terms of just the talent pool that you guys had to draw from, because Elijah Fisher obviously had NBA buzz since he was a preteen. Leonard Miller exploded this year. Fosa is regarded as one of those guys. Can you recall another year where we had maybe multiple guys looking at the NBA potentially?
I don't know about the NBA, but I mean the league itself and BioSteel. I mean, you look at it and you always got 2 or 3 guys that are just like got that NBA buzz or could be one and done, and and then you look at the OSBA. Is we started out way back when we had Jamal Thon all on one team, and Justin Jackson was at TRC or Rise. So you had that buzz with that, and then you just fast forward Lugans Dort and Addison Patterson and all the guys that were at Thorn Lee. There's a lot of guys there. So I mean it's always been pretty competitive. I think the anomaly this year was there's a lot of buzz around all those guys, but there wasn't a lot of scholarship offers being thrown around.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. Well, I mean, Leonard, I'd put him in his own little box because he has the unique option of declaring for the draft this year. But between the other guys at BioSteel specifically, it's like none of you guys are locked in yet. And what are your thoughts on the transfer portal?
It's crazy. I say this to everybody, and explaining to parents, as a senior or a guy that's going through the process, I say like this year was the perfect storm against high school seniors. Because you look at everyone in college basketball is really sitting there with a free COVID year, and that's gonna dry up in the next year or two when those freshmen now use it. But you got a lot of people that stayed, which would normally free up spots, and then on top of it, you go and add the transfer portal now, and you got college coaches, looking at like, hey, who could stay, who's going to leave, who could I get, and why would I bring an 18-year-old in when I could bring a 22-year-old in? A guy that I don't got to teach how to be, a freshman, a guy who I don't have to worry about academically, a guy who's been through the rigors of a college basketball season or two. So I think it was a perfect storm. I say that 2024 class, I think it's going to calm back down into that class when everyone's used those COVID years, and now you're just going against the transfer portal.
That's super interesting because I never even realized that part. I thought it was just like the seniors that are getting an extra year because of COVID, like if you're going into like your fifth. But everyone got that year.
Because everyone gets a COVID year. So
that's nutty.
And I think that's why it was so difficult. I look at the transfer portal, and when I'll say it's free agency in college basketball, really, when it comes down to it.
I agree.
You don't like it, leave. Don't like it, leave. And I don't know. I'm not all for it. I mean, I have some kids that have transferred, and it works out, and sometimes it's just fit. But I think they need to do something about it. Put some restrictions on it in terms of like if your coach gets fired or your coach leaves, you get to transfer.
That's acceptable.
Yeah,
I think, right? If the person that
absolutely.
recruited you, brought you in, is gone, then
1,000%.
Yeah.
But just not getting what you wanted or not being as productive as you wanted in the first year, like, okay, I'm out, and I'm out, and it just seems like it's too easy. Whereas on the girls' side, the transfer portal is not so critical because I think they take their time and they're more loyal, they're more committed. I think they do their research more before they pick the school.
Yeah, and they're going a year earlier most of the time too. They're going straight from grade 12.
Absolutely. So, you look at it and we just got to weather the storm right now, and we got to put good product on the floor and make those college coaches want the kids.
I was always wondering why can't they just have a like I don't know if you watch soccer now, but in soccer they have the transfer or the the kind of like the free agency windows, and it's like between this day and this day there's a movement period, and after that it's almost like a trade deadline, right? I feel like okay, the March Madness ends end of April or early April. Just say mid-April to the second week of May or third week of May. That's your transfer portal. Lock it, and then let these kids find a spot.
I think where you got to do it is I don't think you should be able to. It's unfortunate, but like there's got to be some deterrent, and I don't think you should be able to play out your whole season and then say I'm out of here, because then what you do is you freeze the recruiting on high school seniors,
right?
And so you wait till April. Now you say you have till May. Well, most seniors are done in May, June, and they're going to be sitting there waiting to see what these guys do in a transfer. So I think there needs to be something, or maybe each team's allowed, 2 transfers, or you could take 2 guys out of the transfer portal. But there's got to be some sort of steps, I think, that have to go in there to protect. Otherwise, you're just going to have a ton of kids that end up going JUCO, D2, D3, U Sport, guys that should be playing Division I, and if I'm U Sport, I'm sitting there saying, man, I'm licking my chops at the fact that there's going to be some killers playing in that league. That's
what I thought too. When I talked to some of the U Sports coaches, I'm like, do you guys ever just sit down and talk about maybe the fact that we could be, for the lack of a better term, a Canadian JUCO? Like all the kids that want to go play D1, promise them that you'll let them leave after the year, and just let them go crazy for one. Because U Sports,
I think you could. I definitely think you could. I just think that these kids get locked so in, and you have to look at the academic side where, hey, they could get into some U Sport schools, but most of them, really lock in on their 16 core credits for NCAA eligibility. And then you get your full graduation, but it's not necessarily everything that, a U Sport school would want in terms of, your 4U courses and all that for acceptance. So I think there's a balance there, but I think it's got to become more viable or more obtainable for a Canadian kid to say, I want to go to U Sport without a huge price tag hanging on their head, so that, if you got a D1 offer and it's okay, and you got a U Sport offer and it's okay, you stay and play in U Sport rather than coming back. So there's got to be something to help balance that out, I think.
Right, because I would imagine, actually, I know that the academic threshold for U Sports is just as high, if not higher, to play with them, and then the compensation that the school gives you to play there is not
enough.
It's not enough. Like I mean, you can give a kid a full ride, and then the school can make money if you're selling at the games. I think
that's a commitment that we need to make, and that's the biggest difference when you sit down and you really look at it. Is the prep schools are committing to keep the best talent here, and I'm not saying the prep schools are competing against U Sport at all, but U Sport is competing against Division I, or they should be. And the difference is the sports culture. In the U.S., those basketball players in that school want to give scholarships versus, at U Sport, it's not necessarily that. Like, they're not going to come out and say, hey, we're going to give 15 full ride scholarships for kids to come to, University ABC.
Right.
But I think that the alumni and the culture, we got to help build that up on the U Sport side to make that viable and make U Sports competitive against kids having to leave.
No, University of ABC would be a fire name. No, I was thinking like University of Andrew, but maybe one time. But so what about let's start here. How many NBA players have you coached in your tenure? Or, I mean, obviously, go on to play.
I'm going to say somewhere north of 15, 18, somewhere in there.
Do you find a similar archetype, if you will, or a similar sort of skill, maybe not skill set, because you can have guards, you can have bigs, they have different skill sets, but mindset between those 15 to 18 guys?
Yeah, definitely. I think, without, it's not a secret. I think, you got to, you look at the eye test and you say, oh, this kid's really big. He's got long arms. He's got big feet, long legs. And then they possess a skill. And you got to really be able to analyze that player. And I think too often there's too much going into trying to make a whole player. And I don't want it to sound wrong. Like, there is aspects that you got to work on, but you and I both possess a skill. A basketball player that's at an elite level possesses a skill. You got to determine what that is and then really work on it, and then really structure your training and your development around helping them take away some weaknesses, but you got to keep building that one strength. You take the anomalies out of the NBA and you look at back, Corey Joseph was a great passer. He could score. Tristan Thompson was a rebounder. You look at every single guy that's been drafted out of Canada, they have a unique skill or a unique skill set. It's not everything. And I think those kids have really locked in on focusing on, I'm just going to be the best at this. The non-negotiable is you got to be able to play defense, and then you have your skill. Lugan's Dort, I look at, Brookwood Elite did an amazing job with him. We got him at Orangeville for a year and a bit, and he focused in on being able to shoot. He worked on, he was a prolific scorer, a super duper athlete. And then, defense wasn't his number one strength.
Really?
Exactly what you said. He was good, but he was a scorer. He was a flat out, I want to dunk on you. I'm going to be in your face. I'm going to get downhill. I'm going to take some shots. But he's carved his niche as one of the best defenders in the NBA. And that's not something that he had early on. He was capable, but it wasn't what he hung his hat on. It's what he needed to do to establish himself as who he is now.
If I gave you the truth serum right now and I asked you, back in the day, did you think Lou Dort was an NBA player?
Hell yes.
Yeah?
Hell yes.
I missed Lou Dort. So, again, I really started covering prep.
He was a man.
So he
was a man playing. You walk in the gym and you just knew, this kid is
Was he still built?
He was built strong? Exactly like he is now, killing high school kids.
Yeah. And then, so is there anything specifically that I guess a high schooler right now can work towards in order to best replicate those things? Because obviously there's God-given gifts and there's guys that are just grown men by the time they get to prep school, which maybe isn't on the cards for everyone. But what's the most, I guess, repeatable thing that the majority of kids could do to
It's funny because we had this conversation the other day, and it's COVID really, I think, took a lot of kids backwards, obviously, because we couldn't play, but it also put them into a box of Zoom training, and they all became these dribbling machines, and they forgot how to play team basketball. So I think, when you look at it, and I talk to college coaches all the time, and they say, if you can't shoot, don't recruit. And so, shooting is, you see it, in every college game and every NBA game. If you can't make shots, you can't play. If you can't defend your position, you can't play. So I think for kids that are coming up is understanding who and what they are. Sometimes the things that you don't want to hear are the things that you absolutely need to hear, because, you have to find out who and what you are as a player, and then you got to find out what your strengths and weaknesses are. And I think, all these kids now have personal trainers, and that, I think you need to go to a personal trainer with a plan of who you are, what do I hang my hat on, and what do I need to work on. And if you don't know that, then when you hire those trainers, they should be able to give you the feedback of who and what you are and what you do good and what you don't do good. And I'd seek that.
I kind of got scatterbrained right now because I'm also thinking about what you said earlier about how when you're talking about a player reinforcing the one thing they do really, really well, working on their weaknesses, but double down on the thing that they do really well. From your perspective, when you're building a team, are you taking, the 12 to 15 best guys with the highest upside? Or are you looking at, this guy's skill, complexion really complements another person's skill? How do you go about recruiting for the prep season?
That's a great question. Because in the last 4 years we've rebuilt every single year, with the exception of last year because of COVID. So we lose 8 or 9 guys, and what I look to do is start to put pieces of the puzzle together, and strictly on who complements each other, not just trying to put the 12 best guys on the floor, because that just doesn't work. You need, and I believe it starts with a pass first point guard, a guy that just has such a heavy value on trying to get other guys to look good. and not so much worried. And I've been blessed with some amazing point guards in my coaching career with, starting way back with Jaron Skeet, Nick Lewis, Tyler, Nas Long, I'm going to get in trouble. Kevin Zavo, and then as recently, I was super blessed with like Shamar Rathan Mays, who was just a leader and wanted to, make everyone around him work hard and be better. And then Darius Diavero, which were two amazing point guards for building a team around. So I really start at the point guard position. I look for a guy that's going to make everyone better. Yeah. A guy that, if I was recruiting you and I say, hey, our point guard wants to give you the ball, you're going to be like, hey, I want to play there, because most point guards don't want to give up the ball. And then really look at a 1-3-5. That's my biggest goal, is find the right one, get an athletic 3 and a dominant 5. And then, this year we were good with a pick and pop 4 that could really shoot it in Rory Stewart. And then athletic 3s, and then I play 2 point guards. So I know the ball's going to be moving. I know we could defend the positions. And so it's really starting with who does what, who's going to make each other look good, and who are willing passers, because this ball's got to move to win.
Have you gotten into any like fiery debates with, D1s or U Sports or whatnot about like small point guards? Because I feel like you'd have a soft spot for small point guards in your heart, like I do.
I definitely do. It's just so tough, man. They can't see past, like, Shamar Rathan Mays was just awesome, and he's a amazing leader, and he's going to go to war for you if you're a coach, and that's what you want as a coach. Right. And it's a balance, because you look at before those kids, you walk back in the gym here, and you got point guards that are scoring, and that's all good. Right. But colleges want point guards that could pass the ball and make guys around them better. And then you look at the NBA, and it's all scoring point guards again. There's very few pass first point guards. Right. So it's like you got to balance with kids to understand, like, hey, your dream is the NBA. Your goal is college. Yeah. In order to get us to check off the boxes to your goals, you're going to have to pass the ball. Right. If you're going to score at that level, you're probably going to play off the ball at the 2 or 3. Right. And then in the NBA, you're probably not big enough to guard 3s or play the 3. So you got to figure out that balance. I got a soft spot for small guards, but obviously when you recruit, you sit there and look, hey, I want 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". Right. Next year going into our season, we got 6'7" point guards. Right. So, we're kind of all over the map, but if you could pass the ball, then you could play.
Yeah, because I was having that debate with Jaden, about Jaden Clayton. I'm like, okay, he's not, the tallest point guard, but
I love that kid.
He unlocked 40 areas. I mean, Leonard Miller was doing a great job in his own regard of facilitating, but then you add Jaden Clayton, and who had the ball in the OSBA finals down the stretch? The point guard.
He's a facilitator, which is exactly, and Charles is smart. Charles is a smart coach. He knew if he could get Jaden back, it's just going to free up everything for him, and everybody gets better instantaneously. So, it's hard to find those. When we sit here and we come back to probably the best pass first point guard in the league, Jaden Clayton. We probably had the best scoring guard, or one of the best scoring guards, in Jefferson Monegro. Right. So you look at that and you say, okay, for what Fort Erie needed, he was the perfect piece of the puzzle to complete it. Yeah.
No, and the fact that I don't think he's committed yet either. No. I mean, I'm sure buzz has picked up after the fact, and there's going to be a lot of gravity with the Leonard Miller situation, but it was like, even if that kid was playing wherever, like, he shouldn't have to be waiting this long.
It goes back to it. I mean, you gotta really, be on it. And I think the one thing that's hurt our league is the competitiveness, how I started out saying it, because a kid like Jaden Clayton in the finals is amazing. A kid like Jaden Clayton in a 50-point game is probably not playing a lot. Right. And for the most part, you have more blowouts than you do good games. Right. So your tape is now, I'm not going to say
exactly.
compromise, but
Right.
it's, you play 8 minutes, you're up 20, you go to the bench, the bench takes it up to 30, 40, and you just don't play a lot. So now your points per game are down, your
Yeah.
minutes are down, all your averages are down, and coaches in the U.S. are really hung up on this. I'm going to watch it in synergy.
Right.
Well, they don't understand our game
Yeah.
up here in synergy of,
Yeah.
we play 40-minute games. We play 10-minute quarters, defensive efficiencies. We foul, we work hard for 8 minutes to get 2 minutes to be able to foul and
Right.
be aggressive in the FIBA game.
Yeah.
But you're punished for every foul in synergy. So
Right.
now when a college coach looks in at the stats, they say, damn, that guy, he's a terrible defender. No,
Yeah.
like our best defender on Orangeville in synergy is our worst defender. That
Right.
makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
It's how we play.
Also, synergy is like flat out wrong a lot of the times. And like I had access to it for a little bit. I was looking at the numbers. I'm like, I was at this game, and this isn't even true.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I go in there sometimes and not killing synergy, but
Yeah.
like, damn, like I'm looking at this clip and it's not even the kid I'm supposed to be looking at.
Right.
So I mean, they do a pretty good job, but then, we play 45 games in the U.S. and 22 in Canada. Only 18 games show up in synergy.
Yeah.
And there's 45 missing from when we're in the States.
Right.
And if I'm a U.S. college coach, I want those 45 games from the States.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not the perfect solution, but I mean, it's a start, right? I mean, I think anybody will take that.
The counter for it is we just got to get these coaches back out to the gym. We need them back up here. And I think with the COVID tests and the border lockdown and things, it was tough. So they really relied on video and synergy. But we got to reverse that. And I know I had a conversation with Charles the other day, and we're going to look at doing some real good showcase events early and get that buzz really popping for next year and get those coaches over the border again.
Yeah. You need any photographers? I'm right here.
There you go.
I really wanted to ask you quickly I wanted to touch on the kind of the coach's journey, because I think a good portion of people that are going to watch this are going to be aspiring coaches as well. And you've laid out quite a legacy here in Canada. I want to start off with a statement that I don't know is true. So would you say it is true that X's and O's are 50% or less of being a successful prep coach? How much is recruiting? How much is ego management? How much is... Because I know some guys that are killers at the X's and O's, but is that enough?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's 50%. Like in this league, when you come up against Fort Erie or a USA, or like X and O's are everything.
Right.
If you can't run stuff, it only takes you so far, and if you can't recruit the right players for what you want to run, then it's a waste of time for that as well, and you end up throwing the ball out. But that doesn't get players recruited, and you're starting to see that. Like, just throwing the ball out and letting a kid do whatever he wants is not enough for a game film for a D1 coach to say he could execute, or he can complete plays, or he competes on both ends. I think you got to have the X and O's, but I think in this prep game you got to get the right players,
Right.
And then you got to build your offense for the players you have. The
Right.
offense can't stay the same all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge. And, for us, I tell my coaches all the time is like, let's figure out what these kids are good at in our individuals. And, if a kid shoots 40% from three on the left side of the floor and 21% from the right, then let's flip our offense so that kid's getting catches where he can make them.
Right.
And then our workouts should be on that opposite side where he's not making them. But we can't tell a kid in a game, take those shots we know he's not making in open workouts.
Right.
So it's really connecting with your players, understanding their strengths and weaknesses, and then, being able to execute. I think it's probably, 65-70% X and O's. And then the rest is development and recruiting.
Coach, we're going to take 2 seconds just to make sure the camera's still rolling. I just realized that. I usually have a camera guy with me, so
No problem.
2 seconds. Oh, yeah. See, it was about to turn off in 15 seconds. Yeah, we can
There you
just... I mean, that means we're probably cutting... Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we're good. Don't worry
You sure?
about it. Yeah.
Okay, we're back. It was actually that quick in real life, too. I just flicked it on and off. So, between recruiting and X's and O's, did you struggle with one more than the other coming into the coaching?
No, I think it's so funny because someone told me this year, I'll even say it, Charles, he's like, he came up to me and he's like, yo, Tony, like, you've gotten so much better as a coach.
Yeah. Is that this?
and I'm like, I can respect that.
Yeah.
Because now you're paying attention to what we're actually doing. Right. But I mean, we've had so much talent that people overlook the coaching. When you have that much talent on a team, you got to be able to coach, or that stuff's going to be a mess.
Right.
And you're going to see players get up and leave, and they're not going to want to come back because you can't manage that. And so I think it's when you have talent, but the talent doesn't override the coaching, that people actually see the coaching.
Right.
So I think early on, I probably was too restrictive on, like, we're going to run this and we're going to do it my way, and that's it. And if you don't, you're not going to play. And
right.
And now it's a balance of like, okay, well, I'm putting you in a place where you should be happy as heck because I know who and what you are, and I'm going to give you the ball in those spots to make you look great.
Right.
And this isn't a battle between me and you. This is me trying to make you great.
Right.
And I think when you get that, and each of your players totally understands that you're there for them.
Yeah.
Those are easy conversations, and everyone's locked in timeouts. Because like, hey, he's doing this for us. I'm not trying to get a college job. My assistants are.
Right.
But they're not grabbing the whiteboard and running X and O's for you.
Right.
So
it's super interesting that you say that, because that was actually going to lead me to my next question. You've been coaching prep for quite a while. Do you have to refresh the interest in it every now and then, or how do you keep it motivated? How do you? I mean, you must have been offered chances to step up as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I started coaching, period. I started my own AAU program, and I started coaching to get one kid a scholarship. That was my thing. I said, if I could get one guy a scholarship, I'm done coaching. Like, that was my challenge. That's what I wanted to do. And now every single year I sit down and I say, I just want to get one kid a scholarship, because we're defying the odds here.
Right.
We're averaging, over the last 5-6 years, we're averaging 8 Division I scholarships a year out of Orangeville. That's crazy. We got 8 guys from Orangeville that are in the NBA. We won the lottery 8 times.
Yeah.
So every single year it's like, okay, I just need one more. Need one more. And I won't lie, I think every coach will tell you, like, I say every single year, by the end of the year, okay, I'm quitting, I'm done. It's over, it's wrapped.
Right.
And then you get a week off and you say, no, I got to go back.
Exactly.
I miss it.
Have you ever gotten closer than just the one night? It's always come back.
It's always, you're around these guys so much that, like, when the season's done, you just need a break. But even when you go on that break, like, I've never taken a vacation. So a break for me is going home on a Friday and going back to work on Sunday.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, I'm going to take a Monday. And then by Tuesday, you're like, no, I want to get back in practice again. I want to work these guys out. Like, it kind of recalibrates your mind on why you're doing it. And you're like, nah, this kid, okay. You start thinking about the individuals and, like, this kid needs this, and this. Let me get back in and work on it.
Right.
And it's just a drive to, like, the successes, and I hope this doesn't sound wrong, the successes I've had with my family, my own personal kids, is what drives me to make sure that other parents get to feel that feeling of, signing a scholarship and watching your kid on TV and, going to will call at a game and picking up your 2 tickets while the game's on ESPN. Like, those are crazy moments as a parent. And I like, truthfully, I just want those parents to be able to experience it rather than me sit there in a recruiting meeting and tell you what it feels like.
Right. What was the wow moment with your kids? Obviously, is it going to the will call the first time to pick up the tickets? Or?
It probably was. It was probably like, damn, like, I always had a problem separating dad from coach, because it was like, coach just never goes away.
Right.
And when you realize that, hey, everything is okay because your kids got that scholarship, and I think that's what drives me so hard in Canada, is that I had to send my kids away to the U.S. to do it. So at 14, 15 years old, you're raising your kids over the phone.
Yeah.
They may have a scholarship to a U.S. prep school, but you're spending a ton of money traveling and trying to get to games and flying and just maintaining contact and support.
Right.
So that's one of the driving things when, I had this opportunity. I was like, no, we got to keep kids here.
Yeah.
Parents got to get their kids home on weekends. And if they want to come to practice, and that's one of the things I tell all our parents, come to every single practice. Walk in the gym, your family. I want you to watch your kid practice because I couldn't.
Right.
And so that, I think that helps drive it as well.
So like any coach, every coach gets a little fired up on the sidelines. Have you ever said anything that was really funny after when you thought about it, and you had to like hold in laughs when you're like exploding at a refs? Because I feel like I might have caught one this year.
Oh man.
But you have to stay serious, right? Because you want the call.
I'm trying to be serious now, and I think anyone who's coached with me is probably going to be like, like, I'm going to say no. I never said anything bad, and I've never swore at a ref. But
it happens.
It definitely. I've said a lot of things. I've done. I remember. This year I got thrown out at the USA game, and at the beginning of the season on purpose. I tried to get thrown out. We were in an EYBL game against Oakland Soldiers. Right. I tried to get thrown out, and I said the craziest stuff to the ref. And we were down about. We had left at 4 a.m. We flew all day. We got there. We played. It was a 9 p.m. game, California time, which was midnight, and we had left at 4 a.m. here. We were just getting our butt kicked on the court, and it was the first quarter. We were down 20.
Yeah,
and I told the ref everything and anything. Like, you name it, I said it to him to the point I was walking down the court with him trying to get thrown out, cussing and swearing.
Right. And
he puts his arm around me and said, Coach, if I have to watch this shit, you got to watch this shit. And he wouldn't kick me out. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I get it. He understands the game. And, I don't know. What did you catch this year?
Yeah, no, but I wanted to ask about like the strategy of it, right? So is it more of like a signal to the guys on the bench, like, hey, next practice is gonna suck, like mom and dad aren't invited to that one, or is it more like, are you trying to rally them up? Like,
I think it's trying to rally them up. I think referees sometimes get into a rut of like, okay, I'm going to call this, one team's more aggressive and one team's not, and you try to get it balanced, and coaches are never happy. It could get balanced and you feel like you should be up 9-0.
Right.
It could be 9-0 against you and you feel like it should be balanced. So it's like, being a referee sucks. Like, I'd never do it. But I understand it. I think what they have to do is be able to communicate better with the coaches and walk over and have a little bit more conversation, because I think it would keep the animosity of yelling across the court or making comments better if you could walk by and say, yo, coach, I missed that one. I got you on the next call. Right. And you were like, all right. Like,
yeah, and it must have happened to you 1,000 times too, where you watch the film back and be like, oh wait, maybe Stripes didn't mess up that call.
No, all the time. You only see it from your team's perspective. Right. You try to tell them like, no, I'm trying to watch this game and be neutral, but like, you want your call, you want your team to get your calls that you think you deserve.
Right.
And I'm not gonna say nothing about referees, but that's a tough job.
To wrap it up, do you have any stories about any of the
Hold
NBA?
On. You said you might have caught one this year. I need to know what that is.
It was the USA game. I thought it looked like it was purposeful. I was watching it. I think it was a live stream, or was I watching on Mix 6? And it was when you're up and down the court, I'm like,
it was probably that same game in USA.
Yeah.
It was that was I'll say we never went back and played at the playground after that, but
I think that was the same weekend. I think I was covering games there earlier that weekend, and people were like slipping, and it was really rough.
It was real slippery. Obviously with COVID, there's so many restrictions, but we got left out in the parking lot for like an hour before the game. Yeah. We got in there. The other team had already warmed up. I got into it with the ref when he put 5 minutes on the clock, and we weren't even changed yet. And I'm like, This is elite level basketball. Like, I don't want to sound cocky when I say it, but like, these are potential millionaires that we're coaching. Like, we don't know which one of these kids go on, but we definitely know. And for us, like, we had 8 guys go Division I, so we have 8 guys with hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line of scholarships, and you take us out of the snow and give us a 4-minute warm up.
Right.
Like, no, I'm going to fight for that all day long. We need to warm up, and if this is elite basketball, you should want that for these athletes as well.
I think that might have been the same weekend where teams just started pulling out, saying, "Look, we're not going to play the games this week because it was."
That's why I was like, like it came down to either I'm out of here
Mm-hmm.
or I'm going to take my team and get out of here, one or the other. And I hate when other coaches take their whole team and just walk out of the gym. So it was like, I'll just try to get our guys fired up. And the ref and I weren't going to see eye to eye for the whole game anyways, because we already had it out in warm up. So I was like, I'm going to take a quick trip. And I mean, they kicked me out and I sat in the top of the stands coaching anyways. So it was, like, it was kind of a waste.
Yeah, I know. If anyone needs to stay in the parking lot, it's probably the guy that just got kicked out of the game. Yeah, so do you have any stories about any of the NBA guys that you've coached throughout the years that maybe haven't gotten to have their day in the sun yet? As a really cool story that just hasn't been out there yet. I know it's a super wide question, but
I don't know. I think there's so many stories. Obviously, you grow up with these guys and you see them. I think the one that's pretty unique and is O'Shea Brissett, and I think he had a great season this year, and we always saw it. But when O'Shea was at Finley Prep, and I said, I want you to come back and come play for me at Orangeville. It was kind of some apprehension there, and I don't know what it was, but I worked him out that day and I watched him, and it was, I really just seen something, and you could tell, like when I work a kid out or I'm in the gym with a kid and there's just a look in their eye when they get in their zone. And I told O'Shea, I said, you're going to be an NBA player.
Yeah.
And this was coming back from Finley when he barely played.
Right.
I said, I'm going to let you play the wing. You're going to play the 3. And, I guarantee you that if you do what I ask you to do, you're going to be in great shape. What's your dream school? He said Syracuse. I picked up Boeheim. I said, hey, I got one for you. He committed a week later.
Yeah.
And he's playing for, I said, I'm so sure that you're going to make the NBA.
I got to call a timeout because that was the most subtle flex I've ever heard in my life. I picked up the phone. I called Boeheim. Said, look, I got this kid. I'm working him out right now.
This was Jeremy Grant all over. Yeah. Jeremy Grant had just left Syracuse.
Yeah.
And O'Shea was an athletic wing that could shoot the ball. And it was done. Like, hey, you fit that mold, and you could go in there and shoot it and rebound and do everything that you need there. And you're seeing how good he is right now. Yeah. Like he could score the ball, he could defend, he can rebound. That's a good kid right there.
Were you surprised to see him slip through the cracks in Toronto, or was this kind of like the circumstances wasn't right type thing? Or?
I think for everybody, you got to be at the right place at the right time. Truthfully, I think in Toronto they just have so many young athletic bigs.
Right.
And for O'Shea, O'Shea's a shot taker. He needs to be able to take shots. And I think when you have Siakam and you have, OG and you have, the guards, he needed to be in a spot where he was kind of the one or the guy that they trusted doing that. And, I think he struggled a little bit when he was with 905 and he got to go up and down with the Raptors there. So, I think it was just a confidence thing. Now you get into a new city, new coach, and they believe in you, and all of a sudden the sky's the limit.
I might be completely off base here, and I'm going to cut it out if I'm wrong. So, was Jamal Murray an Athlete Institute guy?
Yep.
I've heard a lot of stories about his work ethic in particular. Do you have any, or I don't know how to frame this, but like, what do you think his prospects are of coming back from an injury like the one he's done? Like, if someone's cut for it, it's him?
1,000 times better than before he left. Like, that kid is, he used to work out. We used to shut the lights off and try to get him out of the gym, and he would still be shooting.
Yeah.
He used to laugh at us and say, you think turning the lights off is going to make me miss shots? He's tough as they come and as dedicated as they come. And his dad and him have an amazing bond where, their work ethic and what they've been through and what he's been taught really comes out on the court. And, I remember we were in an EYBL game and we were down, I think we were down 2 and we had the last shot, and I think I started to draw it up and he reached out and kind of erased it. It's like, I'm taking this shot. And I'm like, okay, just inbound to Jamal then. And
you're okay with it?
I was like, well, it's
him.
The kid was a scorer.
Yeah.
So we ran a quick thump. Jamal gets it, fades away, falling out of bounds. It was crazy because if you remember during the bubble when he was going off, he was hitting those fall away, out of bounds
Right.
threes.
Yeah.
He hit that exact same shot in EYBL to win the game, and just turned and looked and just gives a thumbs up. Just like he's been, you know, I think he was a sleeper at Kentucky because he had to play a different position. Jamal's a point guard. He's a scoring guard.
Yeah.
You know, he could pass the crap out of the ball as well. He could kind of do a little bit everything you want him to do. So I think that's why, you know, when he got to the NBA at Kentucky, he was a shooter.
Yeah.
You know, he played with Tyler Ulis and Isaiah Briscoe. And he had to make shots, and that's where the whole bow and arrow thing started coming from. Then he gets to the NBA, and people realize, oh, Jamal can play the point. Jamal always could play the point. Just like Lou Dort could always score the crap out of the ball.
Right.
So it was, you know, I think it's neat seeing what they hang their hat on, being able to be something that they use to get there, but then people are shocked how good they could do it.
Right. Coach, I could chat your ear off for another 3 hours if we could, but I think we're going to put a bow in it there. Thank you so much for I'm excited to see what you guys are up to next year. You said 6'7" point guard. They didn't go under the rug. I heard that. I can't wait to see that.
That one's a special one coming.
Guys, that's the GOAT, Coach Tony McIntyre out of Orangeville Prep. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
No worries.
All right, bro.
Bye.